the world has quite literally been on the brink of collapse. If you're stuck here and we're all in this situation together, at least come out with something. It doesn't matter if it's, not a new skill. It doesn't matter if it's not a new language, but it should be something. You should be further ahead than when you started. Even if that is just, you're better at surviving the day. You're better at dealing with your own company. You have a better relationship with your parents, your partner. You have stronger connections with your friends. A big one is you appreciate things a lot more. You would have seen all the memes out there where it's,
so true.
I'll never take for granted going for a walk. I'll never take for granted going to the movies with my friends. Just having that freedom. So even if, that core value that we all lack in the world, that gratitude, even if we start experiencing that more with everything around us, that's still coming out of this with something. Welcome back to the Prometheus Podcast. Luke Anderson here, and I'm joined with Hendry Lay. How you going, brother?
Good, man. It's a crazy time in the world, but I am doing good as always.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, same call out. It's a crazy time, but we can only do the best that we can do. And I think nice handball to me, mate. So that's a good transition to what we'll be talking about today. I reckon I've seen this pretty good quote running around, and you might have seen it as well, right? And obviously, the whole world knows that we have this, international pandemic on our hands. The whole COVID-19, it's crazy times all over the world. Doesn't matter, America, Australia, or in the UK, you got Europe being torn apart. It's not a good time for anyone right now. We're all either unemployment is rising, people can't, maintain jobs, hours have been cut. You got people's lives at risk. People are dying with this whole coronavirus. So the whole world is experiencing something pretty unique right now. We're all in it together. That going into what I was just about to say, I saw this pretty, neat quote around personal development, and there's two parts to it. So I think me and you will pick it apart. But the way the quote went, right, it was just about the lockdown. It's like, okay, well, we're here, we're locked down. So at the end of the day, if you don't come out of this lockdown period, if you don't come out of quarantine, if you don't come out of the time that you're forced to spend in-house with a new skill or a side hustle or some more knowledge about any topic, you never lacked time. What you lacked was discipline. So that's one part of the piece. So I think with that, I think we'll start there and we'll pick apart, some pros and cons there, what the whole theme around that, and then we'll dive into the second part. So with you, and we'll use your exact feel free to speak on your exact, experience right now through lockdown or what you're seeing with, friends and families. But the whole idea of you got new skill, side hustle, or more knowledge, if you're not, acting on it, it's not a case of lacking time, because we're all time rich right now, or most of us. Some might be, busy trying to keep the roof on our heads because, like what you mentioned, it's a crazy time. But, for the most case, I think we have time. That's one thing that we do have in these last couple of weeks. So if we don't come out of it with something, then maybe the argument or the topic at hand is, well, we didn't lack time. What we lacked was the discipline to create something, to create a new skill, to, create a new side hustle, or, to read a book. It was never lack of time. It's just the lack of discipline for oneself. So I'll open that up to you. Spit some thoughts and we'll pull it apart.
No, sounds good. It's a good topic, and it's definitely something that's very, very relevant at this time period.
Mm-hmm.
I guess with me is that I definitely do agree with you that we have a lot more time on our hands, even if people are really still working and either working from home or working like in their office still. Like our time at home is a lot more than usual, I feel. Because we're limited to only going out for essentials. We're not going out to let's go out and grab a drink at the pub, or let's go out and grab some food or something like that. So I feel like those times where we would be doing those kind of things, we can now use to level ourselves up and take us to the next level. So when we come out of this pandemic, we are stronger than what we were previously. And on the other hand is if you have lost your job, which is definitely what a lot of people are going through at this time period, is that I would say use this time well to not even start like a side hustle really. It's like learn new skills, like add more things to your what was the word?
Your
Add
Arsenal?
new yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah.
Like add more skills to your arsenal, so then when you can kick the road running again,
Mm.
you are ready to tackle it down and hit it hard.
Yeah, well,
Um,
I loved what you said, level up, because it's a time to go, okay, well, look, we can either, sit here, feel sorry for ourselves, hate the fact that, we can't go out and we can't grab a bite to eat, or we can't go out and we can't socialize with our friends. And I get it. That is difficult. And I know you're not saying that, and I'm certainly not saying that. It's not the fact that it's not difficult. It's the fact that, like you said, we are time rich. It doesn't matter if you have a job or you don't have a job. You are time rich right now because you can't just go see friends. You can't, go to your favorite restaurant. You can't just go hang out. It's essentials only, work, medical. If you want to go to the pharmacy, it's really narrowed down. So you're time rich. So if you're time rich, it's perfect to then, recycle that and use it well to level up, whether it's, like you said, new skills to your arsenal, whether it doesn't even just have to be a side hustle or another one on top of that. If you are still working, or you've temporarily lost your job, but you still have it once this is over, take that time to reflect. Start leveling up yourself in a more personal manner. Well, what you're doing, is that really what you want to be doing? Because you now have the time to sit at home and think about that. You now have the time to sit at home and say, well, hang on, do I have the best relationship with my family? That's a real big one. We just did a post on that on Instagram, because we're now stuck with the people that we live with. Doesn't matter if it's your roommates, your partner, your family. Well, how well do you communicate? Can you level that up? Because most people, you probably could. We've said it before, you spend more time at work than you do at home. Well, what do you do when that's taken away? Well, damn, now it's time to start looking at home life, family life, your relationship with your roommates. Now, maybe it's even your relationship, like say with a partner, and now it's turned long distance because you can't leave the house. Well, how do you start navigating that? Start really thinking about it, because if you have the time, if you're time rich, you can use that to start leveling up in many areas of your life. And I feel like if you're not taking advantage of that, that's one of the silver linings of this. That's something really positive that can come out of this madness. And there's a lot of negativity out there. There's a lot of bad things happening. So I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't capture that and you make the most of it. If you don't capture that time to level up, because otherwise this will end and you're just going to feel bad and you haven't gotten anything else out of it. You've stayed at home. You've probably lost money. You've probably, lost your time with your friends. Probably just bored as at home. You might as well use that to level up. So I really liked how you put that.
It's so true what you just said. It's really a time of discovery and a time of unknown, really. Unknown because we don't really know what's ahead, and it can be kind of scary for a lot of people to kind of think about that, but it's also a time of discovery. We now, like you said, with so much time on our hands, it kind of gives us a lot of time to reflect on our lives, and everyone really should be reflecting on their lives, their job, like you said. Do you really enjoy a job? You might just realize that like you've been doing your job for the last couple months, couple years, and it's just flown by. And now that you have this time period to sit back and relax, you might be like, hey, this isn't something that I really want to be doing. And you can then knuckle down and learn new skills or figure out what you do like, learn to draw, learn a new language, or, music, stuff like that. Just kind of pick up on new things, and it can really lead to more enjoyment once this is really over.
Exactly right. It is that little bit of positive in there. It's that little bit of a nugget that you can find about yourself, like you said, or a new hobby or a new skill, or even just more direction in your life, because we get caught up. We get caught up and we get busy. And when we get busy and we're working on our jobs and, you have to then see friends and you have to do all of these things, all of a sudden your schedule is as tight as it can get. That can't budge. You can't, make exceptions. You can't make compromises because the world is turning and you have to keep up with the world. But what happens when the world stops like it has now? Well, then you have time to think a bit more. I agree, yeah, wholeheartedly. And I think, again, it's not lacking time, it's only lacking discipline. But I think the other part to it, and that's part two of this whole conversation, is that, as you mentioned, it is a scary time. And you know, people are losing their jobs and people are losing their lives and they're getting sick, and it's all madness. Schools are thinking about, you know, repeating the year. Schools are thinking about shutting down and not, you know, opening up again. It's all of this crazy stuff happening. So if that is all overwhelming to you, it's fine to also, you know, lack discipline. It's fine to be able to just be by yourself and process this whole thing completely, because you're doing fine if you're surviving the day. You're doing fine if you're not spreading the virus. You're doing fine if you're staying at home, looking after yourself, or caring for a loved one. There isn't this whole, yes, it's great and it's productive to, you know, find more about yourself and to create a side hustle maybe, or to, you know, read a book or learn a language. That's all amazing. It's all positive. The other side of the coin to that is like, yeah, it's fine to just survive the day, and it's fine to just take care of your own mental health. And I think that's a real big one, because a lot of people, and we mention it, a lot of people, they get so comfortable with their relationships. They get comfortable going out with their certain friends every single Friday, every single Saturday. They get comfortable in the routine of life. And as soon as the world stops, they have to, you know, introspect a bit. They have to sit there and go and live in their head and go, oh, wow, now I'm stuck by myself. Do I like my own company? Well, maybe I don't. Do I, you know, I might have a bad home life. So then that might, you know, really eat at them. So it's fine to make sure you just, you know, surviving the day, like taking it day by day and taking care of yourself, because it's a whole collective trauma we're experiencing.
You kind of have to find that like equal medium. Do you know what I mean? I feel like you should be taking this time to unwind and relax a little bit and just kind of get through this period. But at the same time, I feel like you should be doing something so you come out of this not being in the same spot that you were previously.
I agree wholeheartedly, because the biggest thing that I think like you've just struck on, it's, again, we all know it's a terrible situation, but if you can make the most out of it, come out with something. And even if that is just you're taking care of yourself a bit more, even if that is just, like you said, you're finding, you know, a new direction in your life. Maybe it's not your job. Maybe the dream job that you thought you had is gone now, because you've had an entire change. You've had an entire perspective shift, because the world has quite literally been on the brink of collapse. If you're stuck here and we're all in this situation together, at least come out with something. It doesn't matter if it's, you know, not a new skill. It doesn't matter if it's not a new language, but it should be something. You should be further ahead than when you started. Even if that is just, you're better at surviving the day. You're better at dealing with your own company. You have a better relationship with your parents, your partner. You have stronger connections with your friends. A big one is you appreciate things a lot more. You would have seen all the memes out there where it's,
so true.
I'll never take for granted going for a walk. I'll never take for granted going to the movies with my friends. Just having that freedom. So even if, you know, that core value that we all lack in the world, that gratitude, even if we start experiencing that more with everything around us, that's still coming out of this with something. And obviously that has like a lot of positive impacts.
It's probably like the main thing that people will really come out of this pandemic with is gratitude, honestly, because a lot of the things that we have been taking for granted has just been taken away, and now that we're all kind of cooped up in this one spot, it's a period of hardship for people mentally. When this is all over, it will definitely be kind of like a whole new experience for us in life. It's kind of like a whole new journey, because we had everything taken away from us, but then it's all just been given back to us, and you know, from being in the time of where we couldn't do what we wanted to do at the time, I feel like it's going to make people enjoy life more and be really, really happy with just like the basic things in life.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that is just the biggest core, and you've just hit it. I think having everything and then losing it, that is, of course, the only way you appreciate it. That is the only way you appreciate your relationships. It's the only way you appreciate even having a job. We all know how Australia specifically, because we live here, like it got turned on its head. Unemployment pretty much doubled or tripled. So even just appreciating your job, I feel like everyone, you go by your day to day, and like you're saying, you get caught up in everything, and then you don't appreciate what you have. And the only way you appreciate it is when it's ripped away from you. So now when you're sitting here and you're like, well, I've just lost my job. Can I get a job? Well, we can't, because now unemployment has doubled. It's tripled. So the simple things, I think, is something we're all going to take from it. But to, play devil's advocate, you're only going to take for it if you're focusing on what you've just said, Hendrik. If you're being grateful for everything that you had lost, for all the listeners out there, the very last, takeaway, and we hit it perfectly, is you got to be taking that time to appreciate what you had and appreciate what you will have at the end of this, because you will never be grateful for it if you're sitting there sulking about the way the world is right now. You'll never be grateful for it if you're focusing on, all these negative things, or you're watching the news too much and it's all, it's all doomsday and everything like that. The situation will turn around as long as me and you and everyone else are doing our part to make sure we're, stopping the spread, we're abiding by the laws, we're keeping social distancing, we're doing all these things that we have to do. The world is going to pull through. And when it pulls through, you're going to have that decision to make where you go, okay, do I look at life differently? Am I going to be grateful for what I had lost? Because I know what it's like to lose it now. I know what it's like to never see my friends. I know what it's like to, potentially lose a family member or have a family member that's high risk. So now, the stakes are high. Like, you could genuinely be losing people. We could get to a point where everyone knows at least one person who has potentially passed away from this virus. The stats are getting there if it doesn't come down. So take that time and go, wow, I'll appreciate what I do have, because what I do have can be taken away in an instant.
Thanks for tuning in to the Prometheus Podcast, where we aim to bring the fire back to the people.